Welcome to Best Picture This, where it is always Oscar season. I'm Mike.
And I'm Brian. In this show, we reevaluate every Best Picture nominee from the 21st century and decide whether to keep it or kick it from its Oscar pedestal. So thanks first to Pinheiro Marketing Group for their video skills. You can visit pinheiromg.com to learn more about that. And also, as you can see from this glorious swag, Epic Theaters is doing some rewind screenings of this very movie that we're talking about, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship. So go to see the movie at the theater as it's meant to be, not on your phone, but in the theater.
The way the director intended, Brian. If you are in Flagler County, go to Epic Theaters and go see Lord of the Rings.
It costs $6. There's 3 showings, one Monday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday this weekend. If you're listening to this on Facebook Live or watching on Facebook Live, it's at 1:15 p.m., April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then next week, it's also 2 more showings, 7 o'clock Tuesday, April 6th, and 7 o'clock Thursday, April 8th. I'll put all this in a comment after we're done. But if you go see it, make sure to tell people that you heard about it from Best Picture This.
Tell them Best Picture This sent you.
Yeah, you'll get in. You'll probably even get a free empty bag, just like we have. The Two Towers is also the next weekend, and then Return of the King the following weekend after that. So the concept of our show, Brian, we decide whether or not to keep or kick things on their Oscar pedestals, right? We do.
But one does not simply kick something from an Oscar pedestal.
When I saw that scene in the movie,
all you can think of was the meme. Right?
Oh yeah, there's so many memes. I was watching it with like my teenage sons and some other friends, and like it's impossible to see it as a normal, as a normal part of the movie now because of that. It's pretty funny.
For sure. But one does not simply kick because we have to talk about it.
We do.
And we have to understand what else was nominated in the year. So in 2001, Brian, the nominees for Best Picture were Moulin Rouge, Gosford Park, my favorite, In the Bedroom, your favorite, A Beautiful Mind, and today's movie, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, directed by Peter Jackson. Let's watch the trailer.
Legend tells of a ring created by an ancient evil that gave its wearer the power to enslave the world. Believed lost for centuries, it has now been found.
Is it secret? Is it safe?
This is the One Ring, forged by the Dark Lord Sauron. Sauron needs only this ring to cover all the lands of a second darkness. He's seeking it. Seeking it all. His thought is bent on it.
No one knows it's here, do they? Do they, Gandalf?
The weapon of the enemy is a gift. Let us use it against him.
You cannot wield it. None of us can.
The ring must be destroyed.
It was made in the fires of Mount Doom. Only there can it be unmade.
I know what I must do, but I'm afraid to do it.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
There is no other way. There's something down there.
Are you frightened?
Yes.
Not nearly frightened enough.
So, Lord of the Rings, Fellowship. It won 4 Oscars, cinematography, makeup, score, effects. It was also nominated for 9 other Oscars, including Ian McKellen, supporting actor, Peter Jackson, director.
He's so good.
and adapted screenplay, which is no easy task considering the size of the books and how influential and famous the books are.
I think this is a different movie without Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's as good. I mean,
Ian
he's got
McKellen is
such
good.
Like a gravitas, right?
Yeah, he also has a kind of warmth that not everybody would give. That was kind of I saw some good things that we'll bring up later about what in our what might have been segment. So coming up,
he's a warm grouch. I
He
just
is.
want to say I appreciated this time around that he's kind of grumpy a lot, and I could relate to that. So.
Yeah. So coming up, we're going to do our Farley Awards, each identifying the most awesome moment of the movie. We'll do our golden takes because on Best Picture, takes are not hot. They're golden.
Golden.
Also, we will ask each other one question. So in this question, we will tear away the embryonic sac of ignorance and unleash the super orc of truth about this movie.
You mean the Orakai?
Whatever.
We can't
Super
be,
orc
we can't be
Orakai.
starting this
I mean,
episode off where you're getting all this geek
we're-
vocabulary wrong.
I do not know any Elvish.
Oh, wow.
And I will not attempt
How
to
dare you,
get
sir.
any of that right. We'll also imagine what might have been. There's a lot of different actors that could have played different roles, and we'll talk about 5 or 6 of them. And then we'll have 5 or 6 pieces of trivia. Again, there's trivia galore about Lord of the Rings. And then finally, we'll conclude with the big reveal. Will you keep it or kick it from its top 5? I'm very curious about this
the
movie with
suspense
you.
is building.
It is.
But first, our Farley Awards.
The Farley Awards.
And I want to go first because I'm very excited about this movie.
Okay.
So I don't want to ruin my kick or keep, show my hand too soon. But I think that there are a lot of awesome things to talk about here.
There are.
So I could talk about the world building and the detail, but I won't. I could talk about the great score, and I could talk about the perfect pacing. But what I'm going to talk about, Brian, is that this movie, the best thing about it is Peter Jackson's active camera. The thing is constantly moving. And kind of the 2 examples I want to talk about are the first one, when we first meet Saruman. So Gandalf goes over to Saruman the White's, castle, tower, lair, and it's Saruman the White, but his lair is totally black, which I kind of like. He's like the greatest bad guy. And he finds out that he's a bad guy. But when he arrives, the camera swings into the lair. We get these zooming close-ups, and then eventually this turns into an old man wizard fight, right? But what's so great
You
is
call that an old man wizard fight?
it is an old man wizard
There's
fight.
people flying around, spinning on the ankle.
See,
that's
that's
good.
that's one of the coolest images in the movie. But I love this old man wizard fight because there is no contact. These are 2 old guys pointing shafts at each other and making noises.
So
But
here's
it works as this really cool, fun action sequence, and I think it's because Peter Jackson uses that camera, going from one side to another. Those are almost the punches, rather than us seeing them land themselves. So we feel, the momentum. It's kinetic.
So is this is a little issue that I have with any magic movie
Yeah.
that has these kind of superpowers like this.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the stronger wizard?
The White. He's
How come he ends-
He's Gandalf the Grey's boss, basically.
But how come sometimes when you point the stick at somebody, which I think in Lord of the Rings lore, I believe that's called a staff.
You know what? I was saying shaft, and now I feel stupid.
But when you point this at somebody, they go flying across the room. With what force does that hit? Do I hit the wall? Is that enough to knock me out? Is it enough to give me a little bit of a bruise?
I think it depends
It's
on
so
how badly
hard-
the wizard wants to hurt you.
It seems to me sometimes arbitrary, which is one of the issues that I have with any kind of magic movie. But
Okay, well,
that's one issue I have. But the directing, I agree, the camera work is great.
it's great. So you have Saruman's lair, camera going all over the place, sort of creating its own action. But the other one that I think is just as important is think about the landscapes in this movie. You have the Fellowship walking in a line up a mountain or through a valley. A lot of times,
There's a lot of them, and they're all so just majestic and,
they're
and
majestic,
beautiful. Yeah.
they're beautiful, they're great, but also Peter Jackson is smart, I think, we get these in helicopter shots, where it's almost like a 180 view of, you see them walking and we see them from every angle, and it builds that world. But then in contrast, we also see the digital camera kind of doing a lot of the same tricks. Think about the first time that we see Sauron's tower, and the camera starts at the bottom and shoots up,
Yeah.
and we get this close-up of the eye, and then it dives down past the ground, it goes underground, and then we see all these orcs, you know,
The
building
Orokai.
and Orokai. They're building their weapons
And embryonic
shields
sacs.
and all that kind of stuff. And I think that the practical effects, the helicopter shots, the real world cameras, they legitimize the digital cameras in a way to where like we don't really know what exactly is digital and what is a real camera by the end of the movie, or maybe we just don't care enough because Jackson's so good at weaving the two together.
I have to say that there were times when the digital effects get a little bit distracting to me because they do seem like they're 20 years old. But you
That
know,
doesn't bother me. I think that there's a certain charm in a dated special effect. I don't know what it is.
charm in a dated special effect.
I think so because
I think
it
you're trying
says
to talk
something-
yourself into.
When you saw this movie
Yeah.
for the first time in theater, I imagine.
yeah.
Did you have a problem with the effects then?
I don't remember thinking about it one way or the other, but that's
I remember
not the
thinking
point.
they were amazing.
But the
then.
point is, it's 2021 now.
It's a timepiece.
We can kick movies based on dated special effects now.
I
if
would
we
never
want
kick
to.
it for a dated special effect. Never.
Okay.
And the fact that you would, frankly, is concerning to me, and honestly,
Not-
a little aggravating.
I wouldn't kick it only for a dated special effect, and I'm not even saying one way or the other. I'm just building suspense here. I mean, this is what theater. We're in show business, are we not?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, we are
we're
show
We're at the
business.
top. I mean, we're talking about Lord of the Rings, you know, one of the biggest blockbusters of all time.
It was indeed.
But let me just say one more thing about,
Yeah.
about the special effects. Think about Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I
Yes.
think that the effects don't work in that movie even close to as well as this one because George Lucas is building the entire world out of a out of a computer. And here, Peter Jackson is weaving real life, practical effects, real sets, real places. With it's the Gladiator thing again. This is the last time I'll bring up Gladiator.
I
The
doubt
special
that.
effects are not replacing the real world; they're complementing it. I think that's the difference.
George Lucas, you know, there's a great documentary, The Making of Star Wars Special Effects, that was made after, I think, Return of the Jedi. But there's so many like models and you know, puppets and things like that in Star Wars
Yeah.
that feel was kind of missing from those first three episodes, 1, 2, 3 in Star Wars. But that is definitely there. You get the real, you get the feeling that there's tangible things that they're talking about in Lord of the Rings with tons of special effects.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of puppets like that, which I think
And
is
a
help.
ton of miniatures. If you watch
Yeah.
the special features on the DVD,
But you've watched all of those, I assume?
I have. Yep. If you
All of them?
Yeah. If you watch,
That seems like quite an investment of time.
Yeah. I mean, I got these DVDs when I was like, I don't know, 15 or something, and I've been watching them since.
Yep.
But if you get the extended edition, it's like 4 hours long or something
Yeah.
like that, and then they have another, I don't know, 3-4 hours of special features, and they show you how they did all this stuff, and it's just, it's so cool how you can mix these miniatures that have so much detail in and of themselves with a computer background, so now you feel like there's depth there, and then a real world landscape in New Zealand with, you know, those digital cameras I was talking
Yeah.
about and the green screens and all that stuff. It just
The
makes for something
spectacle-
very unique.
It is. The spectacle of it is like, it's hard to beat this. I don't know what has really beaten it, you know, since then as far as like spectacle, because you have those real world scenes, which are just fantastic. All right. Farley Award from me is, there's a lot of great moments. I love everything that happens in Bag End, in Bilbo's house, but I'm going to say that the most awesome moment for me is the prancing pony scenes. I love that you...
Is that where we meet Aragorn?
Yeah,
Strider?
Strider, yeah. So
Okay.
it's, you know, the hobbits are supposed to go and meet Gandalf and rendezvous there. And first of all, you just got this terrifying scene with the Black Riders. And then I love it when a director can give you this comic relief, you know, right afterward. So after the Black Riders go, then they're knocking on, you know, you see this big door, it's pouring rain. The guy opens the little portal to say, who's there? There's no one there. Then the camera goes down, and you get the second door. So we have this laugh that relieves all the tension of those Black Riders, which I think is, again, it's kind of like sort of generosity in a way of the filmmaker. But
Because you were that tense. You
Because-
needed,
yeah,
you needed
you
a,
need
a
it.
generous break.
It's supposed to be fun, you know. But first of all, Gandalf is not there.
No.
So this is like an early, like, I am lost kind of a moment. Like, what are we supposed to do now? We thought this was going to be a hand off the ring and go, and he's not there. So we're stressing out. And then you meet Strider in the corner.
His introduction,
Yeah.
so
It's so great.
cool.
It's one of the great character introductions, you know, in any story. And the great thing is J.R.R. Tolkien said in an interview once that he didn't know who Strider was when he introduced him. He didn't know he'd be Aragorn,
just
which I think
important.
is fantastic. It's just kind of the whole creative process. And then the scene ends with the Black Riders stabbing what you think is maybe stabbing them in their beds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all these kind of cuts, this editing that is set up to, you know, you think that, and then you realize that all the hobbits are actually safe in other beds, and it was just like pillows and you
Yeah.
know, down.
But that shot when we first see Strider, we see him in the corner. He's got his
Yeah.
kind of cloak over his eyes. We don't really see him. And then when the hobbits notice him and they start talking about him,
Mm-hmm.
then we get this close-up of his face, and it's kind of dark where you can barely see his eyes. And then he smokes a pipe or something, and the flame like lights up his eyes. There are just little
It's great.
iconic shots like that sprinkled throughout the entire movie.
There
And
are.
It just it gives it something that
I
few
will-
other movies have.
I agree. I will say that there's one thing, on my least awesome things about the movie is Ian Holm. I like Ian Holm.
Which one's that?
He's Bilbo.
Sorry. Oh, okay.
Ian Holm, the whole his like, you know, obsession with the ring, I feel like feels like just overdone. And that whole idea when he's with the elves
Mm-hmm.
and you see his face like go cartoony and weird, it almost ruins the movie. Almost.
Really? You don't like that?
That scene just, yeah.
Well, I don't
Don't like it.
that, what you just said.
But
and
I do love Bag End and everything in Hobbiton. So anyway, next we have our golden takes. So
Yes.
Go ahead. What's
and
your
just
golden take?
real quick before we go to golden takes, I just want to say that Spencer Zirk commented here that the Matrix effects look dated. He said that in our Facebook Live, and I feel like we should block him. Do you know how to do that? You
The
don't know how to do-
Matrix as the second greatest movie of 1999.
or the first, depending on who you ask.
Depending.
So golden takes. My golden take is that every indie horror director should be given a massive blockbuster franchise to handle. They should just be able to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching this movie. Peter Jackson, he comes from these like splatter horror movie, low budget roots. Dead Alive, Bad Taste. Have you seen any?
I don't know much about Peter Jackson's career.
They're over the top and crazy and gory. But it got me thinking about Sam Raimi. And Sam Raimi has a very similar backstory. You know, he made The Evil Dead, also like a low to no budget horror, also very gory, also very over the top. And then he goes and makes Spider-Man. And I think that both of these movies have like a sense of fun, and I don't want to say lawlessness. I don't want to go that far because they definitely are studio pictures, right? But they have the feeling of being made by someone outside the studio system, by an outsider. And I'm thinking, well, why is that? And I think part of it is that when you're talking about a low budget horror, that usually means these people are good at special effects. They're doing a lot with a little. And obviously those are two like landmark special effects movies, right? But it also means that these are usually showy directors. They're usually people who have to kind of give you that high style because they can't give you the polish. And so you kind of put those things onto a story like this, and it starts giving it this new feel, groundbreaking special effects, a showy camera. And one last thing before I let you talk. Heavenly Creatures. Have you seen Peter Jackson's Heavenly
I have
Creatures?
not.
I love it. It's such a great movie, and it's just kind of a drama about these two young girls, one of which is Kate Winslet, really young, and they're best friends, and they make these kind of elaborate fantasies in you know their backyards, basically, escape, and it sort of it shows you the power of fantasy to both create and destroy, and it also shows that Peter Jackson is a guy who takes fantasy very seriously, and I just think you put all that together, and you get a director who made this movie 1,000 times different than somebody like Ridley Scott would have if you gave it to him.
Yeah. I would be curious to look at all the, you know, go and track that. Look at like all the great indie films, and then look at what was their first big budget movie like.
Yeah.
And see, you know, analyze that. That'd be interesting. Okay, so my golden take is I have a prediction to make.
Okay.
Lord of the Rings will have a sequel trilogy in the next 10 years. Not The Hobbit, because that sort of also counts. That's prequels.
Uh-huh.
I predict Lord of the Rings will have sequel trilogy in the next 10 years. And the biggest reason is, I mean, J.R.R. Tolkien actually wrote a lot of other stuff that had to do with Middle Earth, but it was never turned into anything, big. But he wrote 13 pages of a story that was set 100 years later. It's about like Aragorn's son or grandson or something. He thought it was too depressing and he didn't pursue it. But this, you see, we're going to have a Middle Earth cinematic universe someday, is what I'm thinking. Because Marvel did it and saw how like huge it is.
Isn't there a TV show in the works?
Of Middle Earth
Lord of the
something?
Rings? Yeah,
I'm not
Middle
sure
Earth,
exactly. But this movie, they made so much money that it's just, you can't let them sit this long. The trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, pumped $200 million into New Zealand's economy.
It's amazing.
So much so that they actually created a government position, the Minister of Lord of the Rings. And that was their job, to go and exploit as many, movie making or money making, ventures as they could based on the movie for all the tourism and everything else. So that's my prediction. So in 2031, when we're wrapping up this,
You won't need to wait
this
that
show.
long, Brian. Amazon, they've got it in the works. Lord of the Rings Amazon TV show.
Very good.
I mean, you were
my
ahead of your
prediction is
time.
I got this 10-year prediction right in 10 seconds. That's incredible.
You nailed it.
I did research too. Now I feel bad I didn't find that one, but I'm talking about like pictures, moving,
So
movie theater movies. Although you could ask the question, is the saga for TV and streaming just the way it goes in the future anyway?
yeah, maybe. And would you want 3 more movies?
Falcon and the Winter Soldier as a good example for the MCU. I mean, I've been watching that the first couple
WandaVision
episodes.
Also.
It really feels like it's just a long movie. Could they turn it into, part 1, 2, and 3 and turn it into a movie?
But
Probably
I mean,
so.
that begs the question: do you want 12 more hours of Lord of the Rings movies, another trilogy? Did you
Well,
like The Hobbit?
Well, are you going to keep this movie or not?
I mean,
If you're going to keep it, you want more of it, right?
let's just wait. Well, I mean, yes, maybe.
I did not even see the Hobbit movies.
Oh,
I will
okay.
be honest. I wasn't really that interested in the Hobbit movies because I'm like, wait a minute. 3 movies for 1 book.
Yeah.
Like, this
Seems like
is
a lot.
just purely a calculation of like, okay, we got to stretch this out. I mean, we already went from the last Twilight book being split up into 2, the last Harry Potter split up into 2.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, so now we're going to turn the Hobbit into 3?
The last Sopranos season split up into 2.
Oh, man.
But this movie, though,
Have you seen the Hobbit movies?
I've seen one of them, and that was kind of enough for me. But these are different, though. There's so much, and one of the things I love so much about this movie is how much information they cram into it. Like, I watched the extended editions, like I said, and the first disc I think was an hour and 45 minutes. It flew by, and sort of the beginning of this movie is all exposition, right? You get a narrator telling us the history of the ring, how this all happened, but just the way that Jackson shoots it, it never feels stiff. It never feels boring or talky.
I really feel like it is the best at the beginning.
It's great at the
in Hobbiton. I think that is really where it sings the most. Although, as I was thinking through that, there are so many other good moments later on. Okay, so let's go to our questions. This is where we each ask one question. We leap off the Tower of Ignorance, and we land on the enormous Eagle of Truth, where we fly away to enlightenment.
That's good.
So here's my question for you.
Okay.
Using Sauron's eye, Saruman, which they should have had a little
They're a
different,
little
more
close.
different sounding names.
You know
than
what?
that.
Let's call Saruman Carl for the rest
Carl,
of the show.
I like that. When Carl takes his staff, which is the technical term, I believe, for a wizard,
Not Shaft.
he shoots lightning from across the universe with his staff, using the power of the eye. As the Fellowship are going up this twisty, turny, snowy mountain, which the suggestion that we should turn around and go back is so ridiculous. Shouldn't have said it. But he shoots lightning, and it destroys this glacially, outcropping, and causes an avalanche, which causes great trouble to the Fellowship. And here's my question for
You're
you.
very stressed out in that moment.
Here's my question for you.
Okay.
Why did Carl not use his lightning powers to zap Gandalf and or Frodo and or Samwise Gamgee in the head killing them and ending the quest.
First of all, if he shoots Samwise Gamgee, that seems like he's
All in
setting
one.
his sights kind of low. But
Do all in one.
I got to tell you, I hate this question. I
Well,
feel,
it's an important question
but
of
I feel
truth.
like in any movie where there's like a superpower, you could turn around and you can say, well, why didn't Superman just
That's exactly
spin the earth?
Why didn't he do that every single time?
Yeah,
That's
in-
why I
in-
don't like Superman.
In every movie, why doesn't he spin the earth in reverse time, kill that guy before he
Yeah.
does something bad?
If you have
No
the power,
movie.
then why don't you do it again?
I think that you don't do that because then there's no movie. And
But it's supposed to make sense. And I find myself being jolted out. In a movie, I want to suspend my disbelief
okay.
so that I am lost in the movie. It creates this magic, and I'm living in the new world, and I'm like, when they cry, I want to cry because I'm so just overcome.
Yeah.
But when I think they're crying, but I'm like, man, why didn't they just get killed by that lightning strike from Carl? It kind of, it doesn't ruin the whole movie, but it makes it so I feel like I'm a little detached from it. And that does happen to me in Lord of the Rings because of some of this kind of stuff. So that's my golden question, and you're saying you don't want to answer it, but
I mean, I answered it. I think that he doesn't do that because it would ruin the movie if he did. If everything is so easy.
is
to
it a
where
plot hole?
No, it's movie logic. There are some things in movies that we just need to accept because if we don't accept them, the movie doesn't work. You have to you stop at 45 minutes in, and we have how many?
We
more
got 12 hours to go.
You know?
You can't stop at the Carl lightning. Here's another plot hole for you.
Okay. I will say this.
orcs.
I like how enthusiastic you are.
Yes.
I like that this is getting you fired up.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
They don't.
But they do. They walk right into Mordor. That's a plot hole. Here's another one. When orcs attack, now I'm reading this because there's a lot of technical terminology.
Okay.
This is
Well, I'm
Tolkien.
glad. I'm glad.
Tolkienese. When the orcs attack the Fellowship in the chamber of Marzabul. I mean, you know Marzabul.
I don't.
You know the chamber of
You've already
Marzabul.
lost me.
It's the crypt in Moria.
Okay. Yes.
Frodo's sword
Mines of Moria.
glows blue, right? But Gandalf's does not glow blue. But yet Gandalf is carrying Glamdring, the foe hammer, which was forged by Turgon the elf. Therefore, it should have glowed blue, just like Sting. And you get thrown out of this stuff. You know, you're like, I can't suspend my disbelief anymore.
Wow.
If Gandalf's sword doesn't even glow blue, what's going on here?
Here's what I think. I think you are making up problems to throw me off your scent so it doesn't seem like you're going to keep this movie, but I think you're going to keep it. I think this is nonsense. That's what I think. I'm going to ask a question that's a little less nonsense, if that's okay with you.
All right. Ask me something that will throw us into the something of something and then give us the ignorance of
Yeah.
nothing.
At one point, Gandalf says, "There's only one Lord of the Ring, and he does not share power." And then he also talks about destiny. He says something like, "Bilbo was meant to find the ring, which means that you were meant to have it." And that is an encouraging thought.
Yeah,
So clearly there are religious themes here.
I would agree.
But is this a religious movie? Is Peter Jackson promoting religion in a similar way to like Chronicles of Narnia, if you remember that movie?
Yeah, I
did?
do. Actually,
Or-
it was more of a book to me than.
Yeah, not me.
Than a movie.
Or are the religious themes in service of like a more basic good and evil premise?
I think that is an excellent question,
Thank
which really is just my way of stalling. But
It's a little deeper than you were expecting. Yep.
I don't think it was quite as deep as my question.
I don't know.
But I did not read up on Tolkien and Christianity, but I know there is a lot out there about this. And I do think that there are themes of like self-sacrifice that is very Christian. And I don't think that it ever to me feels like over the top. But I'm also a very devout Christian. So maybe that's partly why I kind of like the idea that it's kind of is reinforcing some like good and evil. And this is a movie where actually good has a chance to win. I think a lot of times in Hollywood, religion and Christian sort of themes are either used in a way that is purely for subverting them or to mock them.
Yeah.
And this one
movie has an
this
actual
one
core
feels like it's there to kind of get it's fictionalized, purely fictionalized, but it is also a way to kind of celebrate the good that is in those themes.
Yeah,
And so
sincerely.
I honestly, that is one of the redeeming qualities of the whole trilogy, in my opinion.
So here's the thing. If this is a religious text, if you're going to label it that way, then you need to start assigning like characters to fill certain roles. Like, is Gandalf Jesus? Is that what we're supposed to think?
I don't think we're supposed to think that,
Neither am
and I
I.
definitely don't go that far.
No.
But there are parts of it, like Frodo is sort of like a Christ, Aragorn is sort of like a Christ, and so is Gandalf. They all kind of do in different ways. And
See,
even
go ahead.
Boromir,
Yeah.
you know, he essentially sacrifices himself by fighting the orcs and taking them on. Uruk-hai, whatever, yeah. And Merry and Pippin, they run out.
Ugh.
They sacrifice themselves. Sam goes and almost drowns trying to go and be with him. It's just full of people making self-sacrificing decisions.
Yep.
And it's very inspiring because of that.
So a couple things. Merry and Pippin, worst characters in the movie. Boromir,
Armfuls of lettuce
no, it's
and
not. It's,
and
I'm
rutabagas.
I'm not even opening that up to discussion.
I love the lettuce.
I'm just putting it out there as fact. But Boromir, maybe the coolest redemption death scene.
And it's so quick, too.
I mean, his talk with Aragorn after, maybe I'm not so big on that. But
I
the
don't mind
whole thing with him like saving, was it Merry and Pippin in that scene, or was it just Frodo? Where he redeems himself after he tries to attack Frodo. Either way, the Uruk-hai is shooting him with the bow and arrows. It's so great.
Did you think at all of Monty Python and It's Just a Flesh Wound? And he really should have probably gone down. Also, why is it that all of a sudden the orc can like be a great shot when every other arrow has missed every other attempt?
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't been one arrow or one sword that has had a true blow in the movie up to that point. 3.5 hours or so, 3 hours of terrible stormtrooper-like incompetence with their weapons.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, you get the super orc, and he has arrow, boom, boom, boom. This is another thing that sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm trying to suspend my disbelief, and I will because of the Christian themes.
Yeah. So I guess one last thing on the religious thing. I think that you're right, that the themes are kind of there and buried, but I don't think that we're supposed to go so far as to assign, you know, this is supposed to be the surrogate for Jesus. And I think that would make the whole thing very lame.
It would. I mean, a pure allegory, it takes the fiction, the glory of like fiction and storytelling kind of out of it if you just say, this is just didactic, it's trying to teach you.
Yeah.
You know.
And on Facebook Live, we've got Chris who says World War II. And I want to address that.
What about World War II? Explain yourself.
I'm saying, is this a religious allegory? He's saying World War II
is a religious allegory.
He's saying this movie is a religious is an
World
allegory
War II
for
allegory.
World War II. And I will say this. I did not think of that watching Fellowship, but I just watched Two Towers.
You already watched it?
I watched it.
You're not supposed to watch it till after we do the Fellowship podcast.
Listen, I watched Fellowship, I prepared, then I watched Two Towers.
Okay.
Two Towers, ton of World War II stuff going on in that one, but in this one I didn't feel as much.
I have to say, I'm not really looking forward to the Two Towers because I feel like it is all fighting, and it's
not.
I get weary of hand to hand for an hour. It's kind of tough.
I agree with you, and I remember Return of the King being like that, but Two Towers is the opposite. Two Towers is very talky. That's when we meet Smeagol. And it's about redemption and the trees. Remember the Ents? They show up in Two Towers.
Yes,
and the moving trees, and it's a lot of environmentalist stuff going on in that one.
It's sort of a Horton Hears the Who of Lord of the Rings.
I guess so. Yeah. Or the Lornax.
The Lorax.
Lorax.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Thanks for saving that. We'll edit that out maybe afterward, but we really won't because this is live.
Definitely, we're not going to edit anything.
Anyway.
What might have been?
What might have been? So tell me yes or no on the following.
Okay, I'm ready.
These are some. These are 4 actors that could have. By the way, there's a lot of great YouTube stuff on this. Actors that turn down roles because they look so stupid afterward for turning them down on such a big movie. Actually, no, these aren't all they turned down. Sean Connery is the big one that he turned it down because he's like, I don't really get this.
Turned down Gandalf?
The script. He turned down Gandalf.
Oh, wow.
That was probably in the end a bad idea, and he eventually did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen instead of Lord of the Rings.
But he kind of
You
always
might
plays
say,
Sean Connery.
you might
But then again,
say
so does Ian McKellen.
that was a poor career move. Although, how can you criticize the great Sean Connery's career? Jake Gyllenhaal is
Done okay for
Frodo,
himself.
yes or no?
No.
Why?
You need bigger, dopey, light-colored eyes.
This is the biggest problem. One of the biggest problems with Fellowship to me is Frodo has one face. But this is a criticism I can save for Two Towers as well. So I'll bring that one up later. Daniel Day-Lewis as Aragorn.
Yeah, in everything.
Can Daniel Day-Lewis do anything wrong? I mean, he's a brilliant actor.
But now he's making shoes or something. He's retired.
Really? I thought he was making dresses.
He's a cobbler, man.
Phantom Thread.
No, you're confused.
Nicolas Cage as Aragorn.
It would be fun. I'm gonna say yeah.
How can you? Oh
I was that was gonna be an auto no, and then I just thought
I
of
am
how
like-
crazy that would be. And Peter Jackson directing this already means the movie's kind of weird.
It's
It's
not
not
s-
your traditional epic blockbuster. Throw Nick Cage in there, sure.
That's
why
like,
not?
oh yeah, let's just set half of the set on fire and just see how fun it would be.
I'm telling you, that makes the movie more.
Nicolas
interesting.
Cage, to me, I recently watched Adaptation. Have you seen that?
I have.
It's on VidAngel. It's a great movie. If Nicolas Cage, that is the perfect Nicolas Cage movie. That he's kind of like a dopey, middle-aged, confused
So
dude.
I guess you haven't seen Face Off.
I am not a big fan of Nicolas Cage as action character. I don't think it works. He doesn't have the hair. You know, he needs toupees.
His hair in that movie is the best thing.
It's
about
very thin. Nicholas, you got to just go bald. You know, like, I mean, how can you go wrong? Number 4 is Liam Neeson as Boromir.
Yes, because Liam Neeson's fun and everything, but no, because he was in Phantom Menace and then he's in Batman. And how many of that guy do we need, of that character?
Yeah, I think the meme. Could you imagine the meme of one does not simply walk into Mordor with Liam
eye
Neeson? I
is
mean, you
always
could.
watching.
Right? It's only possible.
Matt
at
Clay
Sheldon.
says Keanu as Aragorn. What do you think about that?
I think Keanu could do it. The problem is everything Keanu Reeves is in, I always get a little tiny bit of Bill and Ted in the background. And it kind of like taints everything he's in. He's kind of like that in The Matrix, which is why The Fight Club is actually the superior movie to The Matrix in 1999. The last, what might have been, is the original cut was 4 hours and 30 minutes. Yes or no?
No.
I thought you loved every second of this whole movie. And why are you saying you don't want more of it?
Okay, I love this movie, and I watched the extended edition. The first.
Are you just
disc-
setting us up to kick it in the end as a big
no,
surprise?
No.
So you're giving it
first-
away.
The first disc, almost 2 hours, pitch perfect.
You're
Loved
like-
every second of it.
Where's more? I want more.
The second disc, that's where they start throwing in a few of the extra moments,
Mm-hmm.
and you can tell what. Not that I still enjoyed all of
The
it.
great Peter Jackson
if
slows
you love
down.
living in this world,
Yeah.
then understanding how the elf world works a little better is maybe good or fun. But there comes a point where you realize this is not moving the plot forward. I'm already 3.5 hours in.
I got stuff to do here.
You got to tighten up.
But this is a good thing. So we have Epic Theaters. Remember, go see the movie in the theater at Epic.
And tell them Best Picture this sent you.
Tell them Best Picture this sent you because they'll probably say thank you for your money. It's only $6. We'll put the showtimes in the comment. But the good thing about a 3-hour movie is when you get the full bag, you got enough time to go refill after refill. You get your money's worth.
Can you get refills?
Check with Epic and tell them Best Picture this sent you. Okay. Trivia.
Trivia.
I have 5 bits of trivia in case your wife doesn't listen to this episode. You can then have a little tidbit that she might find amusing afterward when you go home.
I think she's already tired of me watching Lord of the Rings after just this in Two Towers. It's been like 8 hours of this in the house, and I'm singing the theme song, the score.
I'm surprised you haven't done Return of the King yet.
Not yet.
Come on.
Soon.
In the Mines of Moria scene, Viggo Mortensen is only seen from one side of his face. So here's the trivia.
Okay.
A lot of the crew and the cast picked up surfing because it's a huge 16-month vacation in New Zealand, right? So he goes surfing and he wipes out in New Zealand, bruises up one side of his face, although I'm not sure which side. And so he can only be seen from one side in the Mines of Moria scene.
Huh.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I never noticed.
The tallest actor on the cast is, try to guess.
It's going to be a Hobbit, isn't it?
It is
Trying to
not.
trick me. Oh, Ian McKellen?
I'm actually even tricking you even more than you thought I was trying to trick
is it
you.
Christopher Lee?
It's John Rhys Davies who plays Gimli.
The
The dwarf.
Okay.
And my axe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which is also another part that's very cringy. It's almost Bilbo, weird face-ish. And my axe, it seems like a caricature of itself from the beginning when it was first uttered in 2001.
Yes.
He's 6'1", and
Yes,
he plays the dwarf.
But
That's beautiful.
The my axe thing, I do think that it contributes to what you were saying before about this movie just being earnest. You know, it's about goodness in a way, and it's about people being together. And
The earnestness is good.
Even
it's
though,
refreshing.
Even though I agree that scene, okay, you know, it's we get it. You guys are buddies. I don't know. I didn't mind it.
A lot of people thought that was a goof in the movie because he breaks his axe and then he says, "And my axe." Oh wait, I just broke my axe.
Oh yeah.
But he actually grabs someone else's axe to smash it.
See, we should
So
have
that
seen
saved
that
him.
in the extended edition.
We should have.
I need to see everything that everybody is doing at all times.
There's a couple little goofs, like you can see a plane light and some tire treads in a couple of places that I did not catch.
Okay.
Okay, trivia number 3. We're going slow in the trivia. Trivia number 3. Viggo Mortensen was going all out on staying in character. So even when he was off set, he had his sword with him, and the police stopped him more than once in New Zealand.
What do you think about that? These method actors.
I like it. I love it, actually. I
when
method myself.
When you go home, do you interview your
I act like
children as if you are writing a newspaper story about them?
No, but when I'm interviewing someone, I act like a dad of 5 kids.
Yeah,
I'm telling dad jokes in every interview. You know,
I feel like it's a job. It's a job. You show up, you act. The whole point is that you're pretending. You don't need to pretend when you're not getting paid to pretend.
Well,
No.
some of us are true artists, and some of us are mercenaries. You know,
Okay.
we'll ask our Facebook Live viewers which one is the mercenary.
Yeah. What do you think about method actors, guys? I think it's a bit much.
Number 4, trivia number 4. When you see Frodo and Gandalf sitting on a cart at the beginning, which, by the way, this is another one. It's kind of cringy, where they're like laughing at each other for like 60 seconds, jokingly, you know, having a grand old time. Come on. When you see them there, it's forced perspective. There's a lot of like really cool little special effects. And I kept wondering, how do they make Elijah Wood seem tiny and Gandalf seem huge? Well,
Yeah.
there's so many little tricks. You can read up about them. But in that one, it's called forced perspective. And Elijah Wood is 3 feet behind Ian McKellen. So you have to like set up this whole thing. And that leads me to my next trivia, number 5, and the final one, which is that Bilbo Baggins' house, there were 2 houses made. You had to make 2 of them because one is 33% smaller that Ian McKellen can walk around and bonk his head on, which was
yeah.
improvised, by the way. And then the other one, and the books, even the books are 33% smaller. Everything is to scale, so that way Ian McKellen looks huge.
That's great.
And that's
fantastic.
what I'm talking about with like the George Lucas puppetry and all that stuff. They use all that kind of stuff. Another really cool one from this movie specifically, when you see the ring in the foreground in the snow, it's 6 inches wide.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Because they want to keep it all in focus, and you have to do all these little tricks with it. So there's another goof that I'll tell you. This is another, you know, is it a goof or a plot hole? You know, you got to be serious about this. Throughout the movie, first of all, you see a ton of close-ups, don't you?
Yeah.
The ring is close up.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do we need to see that? I'm not complaining, but it's funny that how many times it does happen. Frodo's fingernails, you notice them?
Yeah.
They're very bitten down, like he's a worried dude.
Yeah.
Like mine, you know, I've been doing a lot of weeding in my yard recently. I'm getting addicted to weeding.
Yeah.
Not weed, but weeding.
You had to specify that.
Yes. So then when you see the close-up of him where the Black Rider is trying to sniff him out, Elijah Wood's fingernails are very well manicured. I mean, this is a problem.
That took you out of it, huh?
This is a problem. You start thinking, wait a minute, I don't know whose fingernails to trust in this movie.
Well, it really sounds like you're going to be going right toward a kick with this one, huh? I mean, with all these complaints, how could you not kick it?
Are you challenging me?
Maybe I am. I
The
say that
big
you
reveal.
shall not kick. That's what I say.
Maybe I'll need to couch it in terms of boots up and boots
Oh,
down.
these boots. We got to ditch these boots. The boots are not, you got to stop trying to make the boots happen.
The boot up means that you have kicked it. Just like the thumbs up means take the sword out to stab the gladiator.
Yeah, it's too confusing.
Anyway, so keep it or kick it from the top
Keep it.
5.
I'm not going to give you a preamble. I'm not going to explain my stance.
You've already justified
this
it yourself.
is a keep.
I will tell you that in this movie, I will also keep it. However, I'm not joking about the wrestle that I had with it because there's a lot of good movies in 2001. And I'm going to have to kick movies that I like a great deal to make room for this in my top 5. But I'm not going to go back on this one. I am going to keep this one in the top 5. So here's what I actually wrote down. I typed, used, calories from my fingers to actually type kick it
Yeah.
yesterday.
And then you erased.
And I changed my mind. And here's why. First of all, I love the visuals, the grandness, the epic. That's why I ultimately keep it. But the real reason that changed my mind was because of the scenes with Frodo and Gandalf in the Mines of Moria.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, where is the real heart of the movie? Is it just kind of, am I kicked out of it too many times with the suspending the disbelief? But what I think of it is the Saving Private Ryan moment where Tom Hanks is in the cathedral and it's candlelight and it's a time to basically tell the truth bombs of the movie that it has, in store for you. When a movie does that, I think that it's sort of like that's what has been earned by so many scenes leading up to it, that we now have a chance to take a breather and talk about what is really important in this world. And Frodo and Gandalf have these 2 lines. Frodo says, "I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened." And in that moment, I'm right there with him. You're like, man, it's so true. His life is like ruined.
Yeah.
And he's on this grand quest, but his life sucks. He could be dying like any second here. All the time he's stressed out. And what does Gandalf say to him? It's really like good life advice. And you're like, thank you, Gandalf. I needed to hear that. Not only Frodo needed that, I did. And Gandalf says, so do we all who live to see such times.
Mm-hmm.
But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
Yep.
And it's a good thing that you have it because, you're a good guy. I felt really good in that moment, and that's what the movie was trying to do. And I thought that was really great. The other thing that right after it, a minute later, Frodo is saying, it's a pity Bilbo didn't kill him when he had the chance. And Gandalf's line is so great. It's so like pure and good and righteous, but also it fits perfectly in with the movie. He says, pity? Mm-hmm. It was pity that stayed Bilbo's hand. Many that live deserve death. Some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? And then he says later on, the pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of many. These are just so thought-provoking. And when it happened this time I was watching it, I was kind of like, wait, slow down. I need to think about this for a second. And I think that when a movie can do that and reward you to rewatch it, think about those themes. It's like this movie is hugely ambitious, in part because J.R.R. Tolkien was hugely ambitious with the concept of the story. Mm-hmm. But this is not just like a special effects, stab some orcs, shoot some,
shoot some arrows.
Take a close-up of some manicured but yet
Speaking of fingernails,
bitten fingernails.
Carl, Saruman's fingernails, when he has the black crystal ball. It's such a good detail.
Like, that dude could be playing some mean classical guitar. That's what I was
just
thinking.
long fingernails. I love stuff like that. You almost don't notice it.
Yeah, but then also Aragorn and Boromir's scene when Boromir's about to die and he says, I would have followed you, my brother, my captain. Maybe you don't like that. I was totally into that line. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of set up, and I didn't buy every emotion that Boromir had in the movie.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I thought, this intense regret. You know, I would have followed you. I wish I would have followed you, and go forward and do what, you know, fulfill your destiny, so to speak. I was there with that moment too. So to me, I will keep it.
It comes back to the morality thing that we talk about all the time.
It
and
does.
those wholesome aspects and the morality,
They sell me.
They pull you in.
They
And
sell me, yeah, they do.
me, it's like, it's a combination of just how crazy impressive the technical
Yeah.
aspects are. I love the music. I love the way it looks.
Yep.
And I mean, it's just, I just think that it's so impressive that they can cram so much into this movie.
Yep.
And at the end of it, we do not feel confused. We're at the beginning of a 3-movie series, and we feel like we understand exactly who the
only
people are, where the worlds are,
Yep.
and how they interact. That
The only thing we get confused about is why the lightning from Carl's staff would not kill the Fellowship. So go see it on the big screen. Epic Theaters. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 1:15 p.m. And next Tuesday and Thursday at 7. Go on their website, check it out. Tell them Best Picture This sent you. And you'll be so happy you did for some reason. In the next episode, you talk about the Best Picture winner, A Beautiful Mind. Ron Howard's Best Picture winner, starring Russell Crowe as John Nash, the schizophrenic Nobel Prize-winning mathematician.
Yeah, and we want to hear from you. Before we record that episode, let us know what your favorite movie about a genius is. Doesn't have to be a real-life biopic genius. I'd prefer that it wasn't. And we'll read your answers on the show.
If you want to support the show with cold hard cash, visit patreon.com/bestpicturethis. Check out PinheiroMG.com for your video production skills needs.
Yeah, and you can find us at bestpicturethis.com. You can find us on Facebook or at Twitter at bestpicturethis. And also, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps.
Until next time, remember, if your sword doesn't glow blue, you got a fake sword, and it was not really made by elves. You were had.
Or you have Gandalf's sword.
Maybe.
It's possible.
Hold out for Sting.